Welcome to Journey with Paloma. If this is your first time here, this is a channel where I talk about the spiritual path of awakening, and I take these cliche things that you hear along the path and I talk about the time when these concepts really deepened and my comprehension deepened, because as we know, as we go along, you start to come across the same pattern, the same situations, the same concept, and every time it just gets richer and more profound and more beautiful when you're on the other side of it. And today's topic, I'm going to talk about forgiveness. Oh, forgiveness. I think that when I first started, some of the basic ways that I would hear people talk about forgiveness, or even the way that I understood forgiveness, sort of like that duality, that separate thinking, it's like tit for tat and right and wrong. And so the things that I would hear, or the advice that I would get is like, let go of resentments because it hurts you. Logically getting into the idea of forgiveness to self-serve, which is fine, nothing wrong with it. But I think that now my practices are more awareness based, they're more conscious. I would maybe say I have Vedantic views, non-dual views. I have a deep meditation practice that is just constantly working to put me into that space of a place where there is no separation. And in this space, forgiveness means something completely different, because when you get past that tit for tat, right and wrong field, when you feel truly, not just in concept, that we are one body, there's nothing to forgive at that stage. But it's one thing like, oh, that sounds really nice, but there's real life and there's somebody offending me right now, and I've been really, really hurt by somebody. So how do you reconcile that? How do you get from there to there's nothing to forgive, you are my beloved, even if in reality I've been truly hurt by you? And that is what I'm going to talk about today. So a little bit more about how I would hear about forgiveness, on top of it being like it's something that weighs you down and you do it for yourself, not for the other person, is another cliche I've heard. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting that it's going to affect the other person. Or I remember Dr. Ramani. I used to watch Dr. Ramani videos quite a bit. I've probably seen almost every single video she's ever put out because she's a leading expert in narcissistic abuse. And I talk a lot in my videos about how I was in a physically abusive relationship, and so I would frequent her videos. And she would take the opposite stance and say there's absolutely no need for you ever to have to forgive anyone, and that's just more victim shaming. And she was very much on the side of yeah, no, forget that. We don't have to forgive. And either way, you're still seeing someone separate. So the way that I have gotten into a deeper understanding with what forgiveness means is through non-dual work. But I think one way that I can illustrate this that is not just abstract and like, oh, good for you, lady, is at one point, and this is actually the topic of my very first video that I ever put out, the paradox of seeking. And in this video, I talk about how I went super hard into personal development for good 5 years. I took an entire year off work, and I was just, from every angle that it was to approach and tackle, changing my behaviors, wanting to grow as a human, wanting to change my habits. And it all started very non-spiritual. I was not spiritual. I didn't believe in any of this, was atheist. So everything was like psychology based. And then little by little, I started to entertain these ideas, and they started taking shape, and I started to understand what was underneath. In that video, I talk about there was a moment when I sort of stepped out of my trip, and I looked around at all of my books and my notebooks, and I felt sick of myself. And I was like, oh, this is just such a clever way to keep myself from feeling discomfort. Okay, I'm not re-recording, but I need to clean the camera. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely not starting over, but that looks much. Sorry about the smudges. Okay, as I was. yeah, I just felt sick of myself. And I felt like I was just doing more of the same, but it was under this guise of personal development. But the patterns were still there. There was like such a striving that was being so hard on myself. And I didn't really come up for air. I wasn't really having fun. It was doing more of the same, but using personal development to do the same. Which, what is the same? What is the same would be the pattern of not enoughness, of almost like, yeah, I will be good enough one day to enjoy my life. I have to do this now. It's like I'm paying my way to enjoy my own life. And by the way, that's not to say that it's wrong to study. It's about the energy that's driving you. Because today, right next to me, I'm reading all of these books at one time. And I have no problem with it now because there's not a compulsion under. It's a free, it's really joyful. I get giddy when I read. It's not the same thing. So this doesn't mean that if you are someone who takes personal development workshops and reads and things like that, that's a problem. It just means what is that mechanism that's driving it? And it's not always so obvious at first. But when I did realize it, and when, like I said, when it felt like I was waking up to my trip, I was really devastated. And I looked at myself and I was like, ah, you're doing it again. Through my mindfulness work and the meditations that I do, I've gotten again to that level of almost seeing myself from a bird's eye view. But this time, when I see myself and I see my books and I see my notebooks, I just look at it and I think, how cute. Like I look at myself and I'm like, adorable, amazing, cute. Keep it up. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. And like frequently I tell myself, like, if you never did one more thing in your life, good for you. You would never have to. You never, just take that pressure off. You never have to do or accomplish or do anything ever again. And you're amazing anyway. And that shifted. So that shifted first within me and my own way of how I view myself and what I do and why I do it, and how I just said, fuck it, I'm going to love myself. And let me tell you something. There's nothing better on this earth than having me as a cheerleader. I do it for everyone that I know. I am such a cheerleader. And the moment that I realized that I could do that for myself, there's not a better feeling. I make myself feel like I could do anything in the world. So, okay, I get to this point where I step out of my trip again and I see what I do on a daily basis and I love it, instead of being like, ah, look at you. From that point on, it became so much easier to do the same for other people. And the ultimate test came with family, of course, and not just any family, but with my mother. Another early video that I created was something about like willful parental ignorance. And in that video, I talk about, by the way, when I make these, I'm talking about the perspective of where I'm standing at that moment in time. So these are in no way like, here's a finished product and I'm done. No, because in that video, I pretty much end it with saying, I don't really know what the solution here is. I just know that I want to get to a place of true peace and equanimity when I'm around or think or interact with my mom. And I don't know how to do that yet because I don't want to have a good relationship with her that is built off of guilt or obligation or shame or just feeling like that's my responsibility. I want to genuinely feel a lot of love and appreciation and closeness to her, and I just don't know how to get there. That was how my video ended. But I said something in that video like, I suspect that the answer is not to worry about this at all and to just focus on me. And that is actually what ended up happening, is that I, again, focused on me, focused on loving myself and everything that I do. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I can catch when it's not happening. And then I can even laugh at that and be like, okay, cool, let's get back on track. It used to be before that, when I would get around my mom, I would look at her and I would see the patterns that she does now that were even, it felt even more painful in childhood, that led to me having all the difficulties that I had as an adult, which this is what I learned when I was doing my therapy work from the psychological side, is I was looking at my attachment style, my childhood wound, what kind of attachment style did I develop from my parent. And so when you learn and when you approach healing yourself from that lens, it's like even more reason to feel resentment and hardship towards your caregiver, because you're like, well, no wonder I do this, this, and this, and you had this problem and whatever. And that's where I was at. I would look at her and I'd see, ugh, there she's doing that thing again, and she's did that when she was bringing me up, and it caused so much pain in my life. That's how I would look at the effects of my mom. However, in recent times that I've interacted, that I've seen her, it's totally shifted to where I look at her and I see myself and I just go, cute. And the same things that would bug me and trigger me so much, and before I would make a whole story and that's why I'm whatever, I just look at her and I go, amazing, cute, adorable. And I don't do it on purpose and I don't try to. It just happens. What I've noticed too is that I start to see all of the positive things that she gave me a lot of gifts that I couldn't really see because I was so focused on the negative things. And the gifts that she did give me are so damn cool. It is a much freer place to be, has come out of rising above the duality view, which in order for me to see life that way, I do have to get into some deep meditation stages. This very last time that I saw my family was all my sisters, my mom were all gathered, and my mom was telling family stories. And I just had a moment where I was looking around and I was like seeing all of us like so enthralled and like laughing and just like totally sucked into this family lore. And I just had this moment of like my heart was so full that it hurt how full I was at that moment, because with each of these sisters, we have fought so bad at different points in time and different stages in life, and like disowned each other, and me with this one with this one, this like fought so bad. And same thing with my mom. I've had, I went no contact with my mom for a while before I slowly was like, okay, we can start talking again, when I was still figuring things out. And I just was so amazed at the power of family and this kind of, there's no word for it. It is literally the love of God. It's that grace and that desire to keep wanting to unite over and over and over, despite so much hurt and so many frustrations. And just having that will, that like miraculous will to keep trying, to keep, so that we could have this moment where we're all in the room again. And just, and man, if you knew my family history, it is nothing short of a miracle to have that moment. And my heart was so full that it hurt how incredible and lucky I am to have had a dysfunctional family that is still, that will never give up. Oh my God. I love my sisters more than anything. I take it back. It's incredible and beautiful. I'm so lucky to have them. I'm so lucky to have them. This unbreakable spirit is the way that I could describe it best. This unbreakable spirit that is like horrible and beautiful at the same time. And I don't even know where to fit all of that love. Where do I put all of that? Whew. That's all that I have today on the topic of forgiveness. How do you actually get to it? I would say you can't logic or reason your way into it. And my advice would be to start with yourself. Become so accepting and forgiving of yourself over and over, micro moment by micro moment, second by second. And then without effort, this will just be your how you are, how you interact with the world. and how you are with everyone else. I would start there, and then it wouldn't hurt to do some deep meditation. I think that that would probably be good, just in a lot of different ways. I wish you guys so much lightness, so much love, so much forgiveness, so much ease. And don't be hard on yourself if you can't forgive. Don't be hard on yourself if you can't get there. It was not an easy thing for me. And it was also something that I took the pressure off of me to ever do. I looked at forgiveness and my relationship with my mom as like a we'll see kind of thing. And I think that that's important too, because the more pressure that you have that you shouldn't feel the way that you feel or that you should be forgiving, it just adds to the resistance and it complicates everything. So take the pressure off. Don't have any expectations for how you should feel. Let it rise naturally. Let everything just come naturally to you. And how does that happen? How do you feel the natural impulse to love and to forgive? Is you can't force it, you can't keep trying to do it, is just to keep working on the little things that eventually you can start applying those same principles to the big things. The other thing I want to mention before I end the video is that I am starting a journey circle. It's totally free. There's no sales pitch at any point. I have been graced by so many beautiful teachers in my life that have, oh my God, they've held me for free for years. And these are I would love to pay it forward. So the purpose of this circle is to practice the way that these things get integrated, the way that these phrases stop being this nonsensical woo-woo abstract term, is to feel it. And so the journey circle is we're going to have one topic every single month and we're going to practice together in community. And it's all about awareness, it's about presence and being with what is. And we'll do little things. We're not going to get crazy and go into like the deepest trauma you've ever had. It's for the people who have already read the books and who have all the workshops, all the classes, and it's somewhere to gather with other people who are also walking the path of being present in everyday life, in ordinary life. It starts with having the right people to support you. So that's what this group is going to be for. We're going to go ahead and start. So visit journeywithpaloma.com to sign up if you're interested. Either way, I'm happy you're here. I'm just happy you exist. And thank you very much for stopping by. Take care.